sportivo e amici piloti italiani della Audi 90 GTO IMSA, in bocca al lupo per il campionato Kamel GT. Fatevi onore, date gas e tenete alto l'onore della mia Audi Racing preferita di sempre, l'Audi 90 IMSA GTO. Ciao e in bocca al lupo, tenete giù.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
Mistakes, bad luck, lack of attendance, it's all bitten Fabian Gerber lately, and the multi-time champion has yet to claim a victory since round 5 at Phillip Island. Today marks the penultimate race of the season, and the 10-point deficit to Andre isn't impossible odds yet. But today could be decisive on that front. Between that fight and the closely contested tussle for the GTO Championship, there might be no nails left to bite after all is said and done. We'll see what today holds in store as we get ready to watch round 12 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Detroit, it holds a stereotype as a rough and tough town. The street course has hosted a race here for nearly 3 decades and plays to that image perfectly by taking no prisoners. Let's head over to our track guide to show exactly what we mean. Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Though this track is by far more famous for its oval, which has been around for more than 100 years, road racing has become a regular feature thanks to the infield course built at the turn of the century. It has gone through multiple changes since then, but here on iRacing there are 2 road layouts to choose from. Both clock in at just over 2.5 miles, with the moto version including 16 turns and the road version having 13. The bike circuit is far less used on iRacing with its more technical start to the lap, but still runs in the traditional counterclockwise direction. The road circuit, however, runs clockwise and presents a stark contrast between the twisty infield portion and the incredibly fast half that runs on the oval. Passing is often difficult here, but by far the Welcome to the Belle Isle Street Circuit. Situated in a beautiful park on Belle Isle itself, it rests in the Detroit River, sandwiched between the Motor City and Canada. With it being in the far north of the Midwestern United States, as you'd expect, harsh winters make this a bone-jarringly bumpy track. It's most known for IndyCar's yearly visit, but has also seen IMSA hold rounds here lately. The 14 narrow corners only add up to a mere 2.3 miles in length, but it can tend to feel like a lot more just from the sheer stress of keeping your car out of the walls. Runoff is non-existent in the majority of corners, so mistakes tend to be punished with race-ending damage. The dangers include the tight and twisty fountain section with its rapid-fire set of bends, and the frightening turns 12 and 13, which end the lap with 2 swift kinks. However, the most notorious spot on the track is the exit of Turn 2, made famous by collecting the Corvette pace car into its hungry walls one year. The first 2 turns are a quick chicane, so the extreme change of direction, plus the rise in the track as it crosses over a creek, means grip and balance can disappear in an instant. While the setup of the car can sometimes help lessen the annoyance of the bumps a little, what this place all comes down to is driver skill and daring. Precision will pay off with the close proximity of the barriers. While it isn't a stroll in the park for drivers, fans get to enjoy the beauty of the scenery all while watching some of the most thrilling racing an American street course has to offer. Detroit has hosted Formula One at a different street course and also IndyCar as well as IMSA, but IMSA wasn't here during these things, and probably a good thing, Adam, because I can't imagine trying to race these cars around here in real life.
Yeah, definitely. The Detroit Grand Prix circuit at Belle Isle is one of the roughest street circuits in the world. It's 2.35 miles or 3.78 kilometers of 14 turns, is on a mix of smooth pavement but mostly bumpy concrete, with the only escape roads for runoff and walls as the marker of where the raceable track ends. This winding course does not allow for mistakes in these very fragile older vehicles. The Audis love this place, though. Their four-wheel drive and good slow-speed rotation means that this track is a dream for them, as long as they control the understeer through turns 1 and 2. The Nissans, on the other hand, pretty much hate Detroit. This track is very narrow for their massive unibody wing design, plus a lagging turbo and more torque than the rear wheels can put down on a smooth and flat track surface. And you have a recipe for a lot of wheel spin moments that can send you into the wall. Add to that the fact that we are running this multi-class with effectively prototype and GT cars, and these things get really complicated really quick. The Nissans will gain on the Audis through all the short chutes and down the front and back straights, but the Audis will be desperate to have a clean line out of the corners, as their four-wheel drive will have them launching much faster than the Nissans can manage. This place has a lot of attrition, Joe, and it may define our championship if the leaders aren't careful.
I have no doubt that attrition will at least rear its ugly head here today. Now, let's take a look at that championship, starting with the prototypes. I mentioned Cy Andra leading Fabian Gerber by 10 points, and that is with missing the first few races. Cy Andra came in and has made a big splash. Nick Mukanos is not mathematically out of it, but he's got to gain a number of points here to really be able to stay in it. Laust Olsen and Antti Lepisto, 2 points separating them for 4th place here in the prototypes. And though they are mathematically out of the hunt, they obviously have a lot to fight for between themselves. What about the GTO standings? Where are we on that?
Yeah, GTOs are pretty tight as well. Phil Lake extended his lead actually over Jamie Hall. 15 points in the lead at this point in the season. And he's ahead of Rob Olenek. Jamie Hall is by 23 points in the point standings. So it's still fairly tight up at the top. It still can be defined by just a couple of races, and this could be one of them. If you get a DNF at any of these races, that's effectively bringing you back into the clutches of the guy behind you. Yuko Leskola is continuing to make his climb towards the front of the pack, but he's 18 points out of Rob Olenek, so he could still catch Rob, but it's going to be very close towards the end of the season. With Yuri Gieson 30 points back of Yuko Leskola and 86 points back of our leader, he's pretty much solidly in 5th at this point.
Now, today's race is going to be typical for this series. It's round 12, and it's got 40 minutes that it will last, which is the sprint format for this series. The cars are open setup, and we have heard a few of the drivers talking about fiddling with little things, even right down to the few minutes before this race, have netted them a few tenths here and there, finding speed over the bumps. There's no fast repair, though, so the likelihood of damage may be high, but unfortunately, you cannot duck in a pit lane to get a fresh car. If it's too much, you got to come in and actually get actual repairs. Now, there is an incident limit at 25 that will disqualify you, and you'll get a drive-through at 17. If anybody somehow manages that within these walls without completely destroying the car, that'll actually be more of an impressive accomplishment than anything else. Right now, they are working on qualifying, but before we get to covering that, we want to remind you that if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. They get 2 laps out here, and a lot of the prototypes have already finished that. Fabian Gerber leads his brother Tobias Gerber by 0.4 of a second, and Yuko Leskola leads Phil Lake, interestingly, down in the GTOs.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think these Dirty Torque guys are struggling a little bit. Yuko Leskola currently leading Phil Lake and Michael Houghton, 2 Dirty Torque drivers. Then Jamie Hall is back down in 6th, but he's currently on his 2nd lap. So is Pablo Rangel. He crosses the line and does a 1:28, so that's actually going to be pretty good for him. Good enough for 10th place. We're going to take a look at Stefan Schlager, who waited until later on in the session to get his laps done as well. He crosses the line, a 1:19.717. That's good enough for 8th place. That's a great qualifying session for him. Here comes Yuri Gieson.
as he comes down to the line. Both laps didn't count. Did he brush the wall, or he must have found some grass somewhere to discount those laps, which is difficult to do around here. Jamie Hall now, who's way down in 6th. He's the one chasing in the championship. He's got to find himself higher up the order because it's hard to pass. It's a 27.4, which is quicker, but it's only good enough for the inside of that third row. Hideki Koivisto's already taken his 2 laps, so he is done. The only other driver is Stefan Schlacher, which he crossed the line with 1:10 left. I don't think he's got enough to be able to take his second lap. That means our qualifying is effectively done here today. Wow, that is going to shake things up, especially up in the prototypes. We didn't get to cover that qualifying that much, but let's take a look at the order because it's Fabian Gerber and Tobias Gerber making it all Gerber brother front row, but Cy Andres starting behind them in 3rd. Did not qualify well here. He's got to hope that Gerber has more issues or else he'll start to gain. Roman Pawlowski, coming off a great finish last week, will start from 4th, and Laust Olsen with a great P5. Brian Molitor starts 6th, and Fabian Jungbluth in the 7th position. Stefan Schlacher's single lap was good enough for P8. We got John Keefe starting 9th, and the top 10 are rounded out by Stephen Warkup. Martin Krejcik with 11th out here today. Guilherme de Otero will be starting in 12th, and Hideki Koivisto had his 2 laps good enough for 13th.
Then we have Yuko Leskola, who took pole in the Audis. Next name is going to be Phil Lake starting on that first row. Then we have Michael Houghton starting on the second row next to Rob Olenek in 4th. Jamie Hall is going to start off in the 5th position with Reed Miller starting off 6th. Matthias Platz start off 7th today with Richard Spitzmaller starting off in the 8th position. We have Daniel Sadro starting off in 9th and Pablo Rangel starting off in the 10th spot with Devin Donne and Jamie Hamill-Smith in 11th and 12th. Ryan Sorrell, Ryan Lang, Yuri Giesen, and Carlos Fonseca round out that 27 car. Actually, Vern Klukas didn't take a qualifying time either, so that's a pretty decent field for those Audis. 30 cars in all today.
All right, so as they line up, we're waiting for the last few here to hit the grid. They'll get a very, very short pace lap before they take off, and you can see the weather is actually not too bad. It's 93 degrees Fahrenheit currently on the track surface, so not terribly hot. They've seen worse here before at this island circuit. Waiting for just, looks like Stefan Schlacher to make his way out to the grid, and then we are ready to go with, I believe it was, did we say 30 cars? Yes, 30 cars lining up here, which is plenty. Don't need many more than that. It's going to get crowded quick because it is not a long lap, which, speaking of crowded, the one fear I have about these first 2 laps, Adam, is track blockages.
Yeah, especially if the GTPs get into a wreck early, which, I mean, history says it's about 50-50 chance that, turn 3 will be a massive pain point for these GTP drivers on the first lap. They'll all be drafting down one another and be, 3 wide going into the corner. And lots of times, especially lately, with this new build for the GTP, they can get in really scary situations under the brakes.
Green flag is out. It's a great jump for Fabian Gerber, but so too for Cy Andre, who immediately gets by Tobias. They are streaming down into 1 and 2, and it's already pinching together with a few cars, a little bit of side by side, but so far so good. Let's go to the GTOs.
Yuko Leskola got a great jump over Phil Lake, but Phil's right on his rear bumper as they head towards turn 3. Jamie Hall and Michael Houghton still side by side behind them with Rob Olenek looking on in the 5th position. Looks like Phil Lake's going to try and take the inside from Yuko Leskola going into turn 3 here. He's going to try and stick his nose in. Yuko's going to give him some room. It's going to be side by side as they exit turn 3.
Lake can't get the runoff. 3 wide behind them. Hall, Houghton. Oh, and Olenek tips Houghton. Houghton goes around. Everybody looks like they're going to manage to avoid as he is stuck prone sideways.
Yeah, everyone managed to avoid him, so he's going to get out of that clean. Good driving for the Audi GTO field. You can see him backing up in the frame there. He's going to let one more driver go by. That's Vern Klaus, but he's going to be way down the field and going to have a lot to make up.
With a clean start for the prototypes. They all went through turn 3 in the 4, 5, 6 complex. Nice and tidy.
Ooh, Yuko Leskola went a little bit deep into that corner. Phil Lake able to get the lead out of that, so Yuko Leskola outbraking himself. We just saw it on screen there as they're going through that corner. Phil Lake now in the lead of the GTOs.
Wow, big shakeup here, and this is not ideal for Jamie Hall, who, big credit to him, managing to get up to 3rd, trying to chase down his teammates. Now, Leskala's not going to want that. Oh, we've got Molitor with a big issue.
And he's taking out John Keefe as well.
Keefe spins it around just in time for drivers to get by, but that actually causes a checkup for Jamie Hall. He's going to lose out to Olenek, who speeds through bravely, and that gives Olenek third place now in the GTOs.
And Phil Lake just got a big break there. Oh my goodness, Brian Molitor could not turn right, and he actually gets into the wall on the exit of turn 2, so he's back into the pits now. But now we've got John Keefe trying to cut his way through the field. Jamie Hall, having lost that position to Robbo, it's going to be really hard pressed to try and get back up there to him. And he's trying, you can see just how much he gets held up off that corner. But look at this, Phil Lake still under pressure from Yuko Leskala, and Rob Olenek looking at it, his first podium, I believe. No, he actually got a second place this season as well. But wow, it's very, very intense up at the front of this GTO pad.
Olenek has a victory as well so far this season, so he's definitely been up at the top, but John Keefe certainly threw the cat amongst the pigeons. Now, remember we talked about Havlowski last week having a good week? Well, he's a little bit behind the top 3 this time. In fact, he's trailed right now ahead of Laust Olsen and Stefan Schlacher, who've been putting some pressure on. Olsen falls away a little bit through turns 12 and 13, but still giving chase.
Fabian Gerber with the fastest lap out there up front. But yeah, Laust Olsen has fallen off the back a little bit. He's really struggling with power on coming out of the corners. Stefan Schlager putting pressure on Laust Olsen, but Laust seems to have a little bit more downforce coming into those corners, a little bit less mechanical grip. Stefan weaving those tires to get them warm once again as he goes into turn 3. He's going to handle that well, but we're going to go on board with Steph to see how he's handling these track conditions.
From the Austrians' perspective, this is one of the tighter portions of the track through 4, 5, and 6, and then the ever-critical exit onto the Riverside stretch. The back stretch, oh, a lot of wheel spin for him, as you can see him just sawing back and forth at the wheel.
I can report that Yuko Leskala in the Audis actually missed a shift, so he's now down to 4th position. Jamie Hall was able to take over 3rd from him as Rob Olenek got by as well. Jamie actually has a little bit of front end damage on that machine as well, so it's really just trouble for them. I think Jamie's going to struggle a little bit here, because if that front left tire isn't driving at full 4-wheel drive capacity, that's going to be a real struggle, because some of the toughest turns and some of the toughest braking zones are right-handers at this track.
Just behind them, that is the number 13 of Reed Miller as well, trying to get his nose in. As you can see, Fabian Gerber sets another fastest lap up at the front.
Oh, Laust Olsen hit the wall in that battle that we were just watching.
And he's into the pits too. Great, wow, great evasive maneuvers by Stefan Schlacher to see that happening though. We're gonna watch one more time. Steph really heads up and loaded up. Managed to tiptoe his way around. Now that cost him a little bit of time up to Pavlowski.
Oh,
it was a hard slam.
Yeah, and he caught the edge of that tire barrier. It moved his left rear around. It pivoted the front left towards the wall, and that just sent him straight into the wall. That's some significant suspension damage he's going to have to work on.
That pretty much separates all of our GTPs. So really the close fight is for 2nd place as Hall has gathered himself back up and is trying to get by Rob Olenek one more time. Remember, he is already 15 points back from Lake, and technically Lake could clinch the championship today depending on if something happens to Hall, but he's got to outscore him by 10 points.
Yeah, and Jamie Hall, he definitely knows this point situation. He's been very aggressive on these opening laps. You can see just how strong he's driving right now. He's driving with extreme aggression, and Rob's got to know that he's going to be looking for that 2nd position for the sake of the championship, and he's got to be really careful not to put up too much of a fight against Jamie, because Rob is known for being a pretty staunch defender. It's going to be interesting to see how Jamie handles him here, because this could really define the championship if he doesn't get by. And he's got Yuko Leskala for company right behind him too.
Though trying to keep score at home, if Phil Lake does win this race, 6th or lower for Jamie Hall will mean the championship has finished and Lake is your new champion. So, a bad exit there for Hall coming out of 12 and 13. Leskala is right on top. And remember, Leskala was very quick in qualifying, so he's a little bit plugged up and will probably be eager to get through. Oh, and Gieson's backwards on the course. The 18 car facing the wrong way in a very scary place.
Yeah, he clipped the inside curbing right there out of 17. Pretty harsh right there. Oh, yeah, you can see it right
how-
there. He hits the wall very hard, but he clipped that inside curb and sent him into the air and sent him straight towards the wall.
And he's actually only getting going now that the GTP leaders are coming through as we watch the replay and just how tough it is to get turned around.
Yeah,
Boy.
the Audis can't do, they can't really do a burnout spin because of their four-wheel drive. They actually have to do the 4, 5, 10-point turn.
Which is exactly what he did. You can see how much damage is on the car because of that. Now Stefan Schlacher having to poke his way by. Let's go back to that fight for second place with Olenek being chased by Hall and Leskala. They're coming through the fountain section. Hall dropping off a little bit. Not really as close as he'd want to be.
Roman Pavlowski's around, the fourth-place driver in the GTPs, and he's in a really bad spot right now.
Oh, he takes
just
a toe.
finally took the toe, but wow, that was really scary for everybody.
Down into turn 3. So easy to outbrake yourself into this part of the track. And boink.
Oh,
There it is.
wow. Right in the middle of the track there in front of Stefan Schlacher, and Stefan has dodged 2 big wrecks today. I mean, I'm sure he's praising his lucky stars, but this race is far from over.
How many lives does that cat have? You have to wonder. As we come back once again to the second place fight here in the GTOs. Again, we're not really missing much in the prototypes. A big slide for Olenek. He is pushing hard. Hall sees it. He closes up, but it's not really a place to pass here through these next 3 corners.
Oh, and we just had a big moment in the middle of the pack in the 7th position between Guilherme de Otoro and Martin Kraytrick. They actually had door-to-door contact. We'll stay here, though, because these GTOs look like they're setting up some passes here.
Ooh, it's a very good run for Hall. Does he look for it? He thinks about it, shows his nose a little bit, but Olenek is deep enough that he is safe for the time being. Gosh, that turn 7 braking zone, it always is so tantalizing. I just feel like it never feels like a safe place to pass.
It never does feel like a safe place to pass, but sometimes you just have to get the job done. I mean, for example, Phil Lake is out 10 seconds ahead of, 10 seconds, 5 seconds ahead of these guys. Jamie Hall has to get by, otherwise he's going to have to really rely on some traffic or some bad luck for Phil in order to close in on the points this race.
Well, the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh, especially around here. Now, I know this is going to seem very chaotic, all that we're trying to cover, and if you're trying to follow your favorite driver, well, check out GSRC.tv, as that'll have all the live time and scoring of every car during the race. Coming down to turn 3, Leskala's got a very good run, but he's not willing to risk it. He's going to stay put behind Jamie Hall. They're starting to drop Reed Miller. You can see the red and white number 13 has fallen off of this group, and while he was a threat earlier, that is no longer the case.
Mr. Consistency, P5 seems to be the place where he likes to hang out. He's hung out there most of this season. That being said, Reed still very consistent, and it keeps him pretty high up in the top 10 of the points most weeks.
This, again, is our closest fight on the track currently. I'm keeping an eye on Tobias Gerber and Cy Andre, because it seems like Tobias has actually gotten within a second now of Cy. So apparently that pace is on point, which hasn't always been the case as they go by a lapped GTO. That is Vern Klukas trying to let them through. They're going to be able to continue on now that they are by him. Boy, these onboards really show you how narrow it is and how close these walls are.
Absolutely, as we're taking a look on board with Nico Leskala as we're going through the final sector, making the turn onto the front stretch. The Audis can do that flat, but it's really scary for them to do so. You have to make sure you hit the line exactly right. If you get offline at all, as we'll see when the leaders of the GTPs start to come through, that's when things get really sketchy there and the guys have to lift, and that makes you lose almost a full second to a second and a half per lap if you have to lift there every time.
I'm trying to figure out, where did Richard Spitzmuller start in this race? Because he's up to 7th, and I thought he was much farther down the order when this thing began. Yeah, he started 12th in his field. So that's up 5 positions for the number 15. That's way off the apex there for Jamie Hall.
Oh, he managed to hold on to it, but I don't think Yuko's close enough to make a move. Once we're still riding on board with Yuko Leskola. Here we take a look at it from the front angle, and that's Rob Olenek. You can see how much they weave back and forth on this straightaway. That's a necessity for these GTOs in order to get straight line braking into that corner there. If you don't get straight line braking, you will lock up one of your tires and go straight into that runoff, and that runoff area does not have, that escape road doesn't have that much room.
This battle continues on. Let's give a quick, no, let's stay here, because looks like Jamie Hall missed a shift, and he's saved by the bell, because the corner comes up so quickly that he outbrakes himself. The number 6 is into the wall. Leskola's back into third, and Jamie Hall's nightmare continues.
Yeah, I mean, he was thinking the same thing we were, that Yuko was going to try and make a move up the inside. He wanted to be deep on the brakes, but that missed shift just getting into his head a little bit. Wow, yeah, that left front tire is not pulling. It is not driving for him much anymore. This is going to bring Reed Miller back into the equation, but Jamie Hall, I mean, he's just watching this championship slip away this race, and it's got to be demoralizing. Oh, Stefan Schlocker's around.
Uh-oh. So where did Stefan lose it? Is this in turn 13, it looks like?
It appears so.
Caught it in time.
He did hit the front right just a little bit on the wall, but he managed to recover. He's back down in 6th position now.
And watch out for those curves. Clipped it just the tiniest bit.
Oh, we just had a big wreck with Pablo Rangel around, and that was right in front of Syandra and Tobias Gerber.
Looks like also Lang and Fonseca involved in that.
And Cy has some front left damage on that clip now. Oh, that's where it came from then.
And we've seen in the past that Syandra, and Rangel, unfortunately, was backing into the racing line when War Cup also got damage, as he did not expect him coming. Here's from onboard Andra, the tiniest of touch, but I was about to say, we've seen in the past that just little bits of damage has been costly for pace for many drivers. Andra does have reason to be worried.
Yeah, he definitely does. Andra has some reason to be worried. So is Tobias Gerber. He made some pretty decent hit with the wall flush to that right side, so he might have some damage that he's trying to nurse as he tries to get around Richard Spitzmuller and is able to do so fairly cleanly. But both of those drivers with damage, and Fabian Gerber 6 seconds out. I was going to say that Syandra actually had the pace on Fabian in clear air, but it's the traffic where Fabian is really starting to make up ground.
And even if Andra was taking it careful through there, seems like it still caught him out. Now, what this does, if they finish where they are, it'll change it to a 7-point gap with Andra still leading. So he'll still have the upper hand if he can stay where he is. Tobias Gerber, interestingly, not catching him right now. Might also be a bit of that traffic.
Might be some of that traffic. He might actually have some straight line speed damage due to that impact with the wall that we're just not seeing on the car. Oh man, it's just stressful stuff when you go around here. This place really was not designed for prototype GT sorts of battles, and the delta between these cars is about 10 seconds during qualifying, so things can get really intense for these drivers.
Right on board with Tobias. 2-second gap with all the walls so close, you almost can't even see the car in second place. With much of the track blocking the view. There we can see from the off-board cameras just flashes of that blue and white machine up ahead, still at 1.8 seconds as he tries to run him down, seeing if he can help his brother out in the championship some more. The battle between Leskola, Hall, and Olenek has now very much separated ever since Hall had his issue. Olenek is a whole 2.5 seconds ahead of Leskola, and Hall has fallen back by about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, and it's really a give and take when it comes to traffic now. That's what's going to define this. You need to try and make all of your positions up as far as like on track and in genuine at the beginning of this race before the traffic really hit, because at this point it's all about just managing traffic and managing gaps and taking advantage of when your competitors get held up.
In fact, our leaders are about to cross paths. Gerber is coming up to Olenek right now, then another 3 seconds up the road is Phil Lake. There you see Bravo getting caught by Gerber. Probably going to be passed here before turn 1, I imagine. Let's see if he can time this one right. Steps up the inside. There we go.
Absolutely perfect. Bravo braking a little bit early for turn 1. Exactly what he needed to do to get through. And Fabian now flying up the road towards Phil Lake. Phil will be clear for the next twisty section, which is good because he's probably got the pace there. But Tobias Gerber is right back on the back of Syandra.
Yes, indeed. He's closed it down to half a second. He's going to try and outbrake Jamie Hall here. He's giving chase, and Hall really isn't interested in letting him through. Now it's going to be very costly because Tobias is stuck behind through 4, 5, and 6. But it looks like Syandra is experiencing the same thing with Leskala.
These faster Audi drivers are actually quicker through this section than the GTVs, so it's actually not going to hold up Tobias that much. What held up Tobias was the fact that his inside braking move didn't work. Jamie's going to move over and give Tobias this outside line a better braking zone, but now is where things get really stressful going through the fountain section. This is where things can be very scary for all of these drivers. This is the toughest point on the track to get power down. And Tobias, this is where that GTP downforce really helps out. But he's unable to get anything done. He does close up to Yuko Leskala, but look how much faster Yuko gets off the corner. You can see him tucked. You can see Tobias tucked in that unibody design right in behind Yuko Leskala. He's going to try and follow him through and should get him before they reach the final turn.
He's going to get his nose out. And that actually worked out pretty decently. I thought Leskala maybe would have a scary moment trying to let him through in that final corner, and Tobias goes on his way. It's a 2-second gap up to Andra. Remember, at this point, last lap, it was only half a second. Ahead of both of them, Fabian Gerber, 7.5 seconds in the lead and cruising.
And Stefan Schalker's caught up to the back of Fabian Jungbluth now as they go past Matthias Platz, and it's very close between those two for 4th position. Stefan pops his nose out. He's going to try and do the braking on the inside there. Fabian actually brakes a little bit earlier, so Stefan is going to be clear there. Fabian Jungbluth looks like he's not interested in challenging that position right now.
Yeah, he started 7th. He's only demoted to 5th, so he's still got a net gain. I think Fabian maybe has just the survival mindset a lot of the drivers are trying to have today. See that checkered flag and let that sort out where you finish rather than your raw pace. 21 minutes left to go. We're just about halfway through this thing.
Yeah, and that attrition that we were talking about really has taken quite a few cars. We actually, out of the 30 cars that started, we only have 22 that are still running, and many of those with damage. We've lost Steven Warkup, Pablo Rangel, Vern Klaus, Laust Olsen, and Roman Pavlowski, David Donahue, and Ryan Sorrell, as well as Brian Molitor, who didn't start, so things getting really intense here.
I think Olsen's returned to the track, so he's up to number 23. He's many laps down, though, and just trying to salvage something out of this as we continue to watch Schlacher ahead of Fabian Jungbluth. Donahue just came into pit lane himself, so he must have also been out there temporarily. Whew.
Stefan looking very loose on the exit there. Fabian Jungbluth looking like he's feeling a little bit racy now. Maybe he thinks that Stefan didn't catch him on raw pace. So, yeah, I mean, Fabian might not be done with this battle. I know that he let Stefan by, but every once in a while you get tucked in, you let someone by who you think is fast, you get tucked in behind them, and then you're watching them race, and you're like,
whoa,
I can
is that
do
Hall?
That's Jamie Hall backwards.
That's
what
Jamie
happened to
Hall.
him? He's taking a toe.
Oh, no. This might be it. This might be the championship. He hit the wall on his own. Here's the replay. It's out of 5 right here.
Oh, yep. That destroys any drive on that right rear wheel. I've had that damage before. And Jamie knows that he doesn't even try and get it going.
He once again, no space to turn the car around, even if he wanted to.
Oh! Yeah, Steph just made contact. He's made contact with Reed Miller. That sends him around. Reed Miller and he banged doors coming out of the corner. Oh my goodness, here's the replay. This was intense and some pretty sketch stuff.
He saw an opportunity and he was trying to get away from a car that was fighting him, and it backfired, unfortunately, because that was Jungbluth just slipping on through. Reed's not going to be happy about that either, because he's now up to 4th. He could be hoping for a podium potentially if he could just keep the car clean. But you never know what could happen here at Detroit. Well, so Leskala, Olenek, and Lake are not safe.
Absolutely not. We saw Jamie Hall hit that outside wall just on his own. I mean, you'd think that 40 minutes around here isn't that long, but I mean, it gets really tiring when you are dealing with this much multi-class action. We're just taking a look at Steph once again as he catches up to Reed Miller. Let's see whether or not he can get by this time.
I think it should be a little bit easier down the back stretch as they start to pick up speed. Yep, there he goes. He's going to easily have him here. So, interesting to note, now that we have lost Jamie Hall, or at least we think we have, because he's been in the pits for quite a while taking extensive repairs. He's down to 13th unless something majorly drastic happens and he comes back out. The championship belongs to Phil Lake.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit scary for him. I mean, he's going to have to hope that something happens to Phil, but I mean, even if that's the case, Phil's been driving so consistent lately, he'd have to have bad luck in multiple races, and Jamie would have to win them in order to get back into this. So Phil just has to drive clean. He doesn't even have to win at this point.
Exactly. Well, the drop points do come into it, but I'm double checking here, and yeah, it seems like Lake still has multiple drop points that he will earn today, and that will put him out of reach regardless. So that is all she wrote on that front. That leaves us with the Prototype Championship, which currently still sits with Fabian Gerber making inroads there. He's got 10 and a half seconds over Cy Andra, who is still salvaging a second place and will still retain the points lead if they finish where they are.
Yeah, Fabian's been doing a very consistent job today, just getting through traffic. He's been very measured on his pace through traffic. I've been watching him a little bit, and he seems to have a very good understanding of how to get through the traffic today. He's been doing an excellent job.
We got a good battle for 7th in the prototypes. Deotero and Koivisto almost went 3 wide with some traffic there. They also have another car behind them. That's Krejcik. He's a lap down. That's not for position. This is between the blue and white car that you see and the green, black, and yellow machine of Hideki Koivisto.
Yeah, Deotero has not been letting people by very easily this race. Martin Krejcik got some major damage from some side-by-side contact with Deotero, but he's got his own damage that he's dealing with, and he puts Hideki Koivisto into the runoff.
Koivisto catches it after sliding against the wall. He's going to be able to get it going here, it looks like. From my view, it seemed like a little bit of netcode involved in that. The cars look like they didn't actually touch on my screen. We're going to watch the replay here.
Yeah, I think it was more predictive, but Deotero definitely got on the brakes a little bit late there. I don't think he intended to do it, but it's really hard to gauge your braking zones when you're going slower. It can be a real challenge to try and get those back into position. So Hideki Koivisto going once again, but he's got some left side damage now from that contact with the wall.
As we look down in the middle of the pack in the GTOs, this is Sadro in the orange and white machine going a little bit deep because Houghton was threatening him. He gave him space. This is on board with Houghton now. The green car, the number 9 that we can see his hood chasing hard on that rear wing. Much, a shallow exit there for him coming out of turn 5. Does that give him a better run here through 6? Maybe.
Oh, no! Misshift from Houghton, from Sadro. And Michael Houghton gets into the back of him.
And that actually destroyed the engine of Daniel Sadro.
And nothing intentional here. This was all just the misshift. Yeah. I mean, Houghton was setting up for a nice slingshot pass there on the back straight. Sadro misses the shift, and now Houghton probably has his own damage that's going to be affecting him. Houghton's day goes from bad to worse, having that early wreck on the first opening laps with Reed Miller, and now, well, with Rob Olenek rather, and now trapped back in the 8th position, 7th now as he's going to try and get up to Richard Spechmeyer.
And our overall leader just went by the limping car of Daniel Sadro, getting a face full of smoke on that one. They can't, well, there's no pit stop, so he can't really do any tear-offs there. That really does it. I've seen in the past, Adam, where if you get behind a smoking car, that can actually cause a lot of problems with the visibility on your windshield, all the oil and whatnot.
It definitely can, and especially with the fact that we don't have pit stops in this race, there's no tear-off for them to get done, so hopefully it didn't cover up Fabian Gerber, occlude his vision too much, especially around here with the amount of shade and then sun we have. It can actually be really difficult to see from inside the cockpit, especially if it gets on later in the day. Now, it's about 12:43 virtual standard time around here, so they're right about the peak of the day, right about when the sun's at its height, so you're not going to get as much of that sun shade problematicness going into the corners, but it can definitely affect you, especially heading into the start-finish straight.
It's really settling into a pattern here in the prototypes because Sayandra continues to drop. He's 11.3 seconds back now from our leader, but he's also stretching away from Tobias Gerber. It's up to 3 seconds between those two. Tobias, who started this one on the front row, might have to settle for the bottom step of the podium. He doesn't have any threat from behind as well. Fabian Jungbluth, 20 seconds back for fourth place.
Yeah, the traffic is really coming into play here. I think Fabian Gerber is handling the traffic with a lot of patience and not a lot of aggression, and it's really starting to show that seems to be the way that's working. Fabian's has been very measured. He's been actually slowing down on the straightaways to make sure that he gets set up with the GTOs in the right way. And yeah, so that is Sayandra, who's chasing down Hideki Koivisto, who he's about to lap. And that was Tobias Gerber in that yellow and black machine you saw in the back of that picture who's going around turn 3 right now.
Our biggest movers, interestingly, are De Otero and Koivisto, up 5 positions each in the prototypes. Both of them a lap down, but at this point there you can see Koivisto getting lapped.
We've got a battle between Richard Spitzmuller and Michael Houghton, as Michael actually gained on Spitzmuller quite a bit. They were just passed by Fabian Gerber. They'll have Guilherme De Otero coming up behind them, but Houghton still trying to make his way back. And I mean, if he plays his cards right, he might have 5th by the end of this race, but he's going to have to get by Spitzmuller pretty quick.
Well, he's definitely got the pace from what it looks like. Very fast on top of him. As they come down the front stretch, sometimes passes into turn 1 can happen. You got to be very brave, though, and it doesn't seem like Houghton is brave enough for that, at least for the time being. So they're going to set him up with a good launch off of turn 2. Tries to get it, swings it all the way out to the outside. Here he comes. He's up to the inside, and that looks like a bit of a lift from Spitzmuller just to facilitate.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what he was trying to do to Daniel Sadron before Daniel had that missed shift. He was just trying to do another slingshot pass, and it feels so good when you're in those Audis to get set up for a nice pass onto the straightaway here and to launch that car over the rise that comes through turn 2. It just feels so good to do that because the car just grips as you land. It's a slingshot off down the front straightaway. It's one of the best feelings in the world.
I was going to say probably a very different feeling from the rear-wheel drive cars coming over that hump and just holding on for dear life. As this is Spitzmuller now demoted to 7th. Still, again, 5 positions up from where he started this race, so he can't be too upset about that one. You know, we talked about the attrition. It's not just that. There's very few cars left on the lead lap of each class. I think we've only got 11 cars left on the lead lap of our GTO class, of their own lead lap, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, it's the attrition is definitely coming through. I mean, Phil Lake is lapping with some ferocity. That being said, he's only 3 seconds ahead of Rob Olnick, so some traffic has been holding him up. And Robbo trying to do his best to hang on to the back of Phil Lake. I mean, he's in 2nd place. He can have another victory today if he plays his cards right and if Phil gets a little bit of bad luck.
And Phil Lake has honestly been on a tear this season, nabbing 7 wins, looking for number 8 out of 12 rounds, compared to JD Hall, who's only snagged 2, and that was towards the start of the season. Oh, what happened? Oh, the change of position for 2nd place, Tobias Gerber. When did this happen? take a
Oh, it's
look.
about to happen again.
He's going to try and get through in the fountain section. This is really scary to try and do side by side. Gerber can't get the power down, and Andre's going to snag it back. Wow. Let's take a look at the replay on how that initially changed. Where was this? Let's see. This is Gerber. Oh, into the wall.
My goodness. That's some big contact. I don't know if Sai's going to be able to hold on to that second place now with Gerber tucked in behind him.
Very
because
slow in
that
the
front
straight
end
line.
contact, yeah, that's going to make it very slow in a straight line. Sai's also got some right rear damage they picked up hitting the outside wall coming out of turn 2. Tobias sliding through turn 2 there on the exit. Almost saw a repeat of the pace car incident that we saw at the Detroit race a couple years ago.
That cost him. He can't do that each time. He's really got to try and get the run off that corner because Andre was almost caught even with that mistake. Gerber ran him down all the way to turn 3, and he could have him here on the backstretch. This is Deotero just in front of them. So this is a lapped car. This is not involved, but it could cause a little bit of a headache. Andre with a very good run, and incredibly, Tobias not able to gun him down. I thought for sure that he would have something there.
Yeah, Tobias's rear tires, I mean, every time he spins them up, it heats them up a lot, which changes the complexion of those tires. Oh my goodness, that was close between Sai Andra and Guilherme Deotero, and Tobias is now going to be trapped behind Deotero. It's going to be really challenging for him to try and get by.
Watching too many horror films.
Oh no!
Oh! And a horror film for Deotero, who hits the wall and doesn't lose a position out of that, but is going to have to limp the car around to the rest of the race. Tobias Gerber, 1.7 seconds back. How in the world is Andre able to run this car around this quickly?
I mean, it's definitely not the straight line speed, but because the straight line speed is down, Sai Andre's tires aren't getting as hot. Oh my goodness, Matthias Plotz locking up the right front tire going into that corner in front of Sai. Sai's able to get by. This is going to trap Tobias behind Matthias. Matthias is not quite as quick through this sector as the leaders. I mean, I say that. Matthias is in 5th place right now in the GTOs, so he's doing quite well, but he's still not as quick as the front runners of the GTOs are through that sector. So Tobias got held up yet again, but look at the time he gains on Sai Andra on the straights. It's nearly 2/10 by the time they get to the braking zone.
6 more minutes is how long Sai has to survive. So let me see. If he does lose the 2nd place, oh, it'll be a 5-point swing. That'll make it extremely tight. Wow. Okay, so that could really change things. And he's got to make sure.
Oh, we just had a big wreck. Hideki Koivisto got sent off by Guilherme Deotero. More contact between the two of them. They've had contact multiple times this race, with Hideki coming out the worst each time.
It was an aggressive move from Deotero. Sends it up the end. Once again, there's a little bit of netcode involved.
Oh, and we have to stay with this. We have
Schlacker and Jungbluth just came together.
They did, yes. Stefan Schlacker and Fabian Jungbluth came together. We're going to see it right here.
Exactly. Oh, he shoveled the rear end. Just gets underneath it.
That's because Jungbluth was waiting for Hideki Koivisto to go through the corner. Stefan waits for Jungbluth to go through, but Jungbluth has some major right rear damage on that clip, and that's going to be affecting a straight line speed, unfortunately.
4th place. Let's head back to that battle for 2nd, because Sai Andra has now been caught once again by Tobias Gerber. But, wow, coming through the fountain section, he cannot get the power down. You were right about using up those rear tires. The number 12, he's so slow off the corners. Look at that. Every single time, Andra just streaks away.
Yeah, he's changed the compound of that tire. It's so much harder now to get on the power because the tire is harder itself, because every time you heat it up and it cools down again, it changes the complex of the tire. But Sciontra's so slow on the straightaways, he's actually going to give up the inside there. Sai's going to try and defend. He's going to succeed. Let's see if Tobias can get the power down off of turn 2. It's going to be tight between Sai and Tobias, but look how much more straight line speed Tobias has. It's 3 wide. Reed Miller moving over to the side to let these guys go, but Sai's going to come back at him as they go into turn 3. It's going to be tight under braking, and Sai's going to keep the position.
Wow, Andra is fighting tooth and nail to hold on to this second place. He wants to make sure that there is no ground gained by Fabian Gerber if he can help it. Tobias Gerber, his brother, ironically, the one who's trying to help him out. As they come down the back stretch, let's see if he gains here. He hasn't as much in the past there. He's starting to come up on him and then runs out of straightaway.
And he's starting to get the power down a little bit better now, Tobias is. Andra looks like he's having the same issues that Tobias was having earlier on, so those tires starting to give way once again. We have 3.5 minutes left in this race. Tobias needs to get by, and that's not how he wanted to do it.
Oh, he turns him back around. I think he's trying to let him through. Maybe no. Oh. They get going, and Andra's going to hold on to the position. Well, initially he caused him problems and turned him around, and then he bumped him again, and the car just went right back forward. So it all came out in the wash.
And I can report that Fabian Jungluth went a little bit deep into turn 5, and he unfortunately got into the wall. Stefan Schlacher has made it through into P4 and is 23 seconds behind this battle.
Be very slow once again. Is Andra going to be able to defend? This time he doesn't. He lets him have the inside. Tobias Gerber almost outbrakes himself, but now he is into P2.
And Michael Houghton has caught up to Matthias Platz for the 5th position in the GTOs. He's going to go streaming straight by, and oh my goodness, that was Stefan Schlacher cutting up the middle of those two. But Michael Houghton up to 5th position after wrecking and going to the dead last of the GTO pack at the beginning of this race.
Fantastic run by the number 9 car, climbing through the field. I think he should be proud of that top 5. Let's see, where is our leader? Just crossed the line, 2 to go now for Fabian Gerber.
And Phil Lake and Fabian Gerber both doing excellent jobs managing their gaps. Rob Olnick has closed the gap to Phil Lake by about 0.5 of a second. It's still 2.8 seconds though. Phil managing his pace and managing the traffic as best he can. He's got one of the few clean cars out there. You can say the same for Fabian Gerber. So, I mean, these leaders, this is where track position is so important. Being the leader of your class gains you some interesting privileges around a tight street circuit like this.
We don't need to go to the replay, but Andra has clattered the wall. Oh, and right now Andra almost loses it. He was coming off of the hump, off of turn 2. I'm not sure if he caught the wall or not. Let's take a look. He'd already hit it coming out of turn 11.
He caught it with the left front. You'll see it right here. And right about here, he catches that front wall there just a little bit.
Yeah, I think the car is just so badly damaged now that it's a complete handful. He's 7 seconds behind Tobias Gerber. So it is going to be a 1-2 for the Gerber brothers as Fabian Jungluth. Is this the same spot? I think it is. Yep. Yes, indeed.
Those rear tires starting to give up on those guys. It is the last lap of the race for them.
Here's the replay.
Oh, same spot, same problem.
Better. Oh, and then he nudges it into the wall anyways. Thought he had it, and then finds a little bit of damage. Now, white flag is out for our leader, Fabian Gerber, with a 30-second lead around a lap that only takes about 1:19, 1:20 to get around here. This is monstrous. He needed a good result here today, and he is delivering. I said that there were mistakes. There was bad luck. He didn't even show up for one of the rounds. Fabian Gerber put himself under the gun, and now he is going to try and take this one back. The fountain section here, Adam.
Yeah, he's got a couple of lap cars to deal with. Devin Donne and Richard Spitzmaller, who's up ahead of him. I don't think he's going to catch Richard by the end of this, but he could literally just sit behind Devin. He doesn't have to try and pass him, and that might be his best play here. So he does decide to park it up a little bit, and so Devin's going to move over and let Fabian go, but Fabian was smart not to try and do anything sketchy there.
Reason to risk the car as he comes out of 13. One more corner to go. Flat out turn 14, and it's right to the line to take a victory here in Detroit for Fabian Gerber. Phil Lake going to come to the line soon as well as he is out of the fountain section. Wow, what a championship. It didn't seem like he was going to have it at first, as it was an up and down season and he was a bit all over the place, but then win number 8 out of 12 rounds. So it's still 1 to spare. Your champion and your winner here in the GTOs is Phil Lake.
I mean, what a race for Phil, and what a heartbreaking finish for Jamie after all of that. I mean, these championships are coming down to the wire. Fabian Gerber now out ahead of Sayandra once again. Well, no, Fabian Gerber now behind Sayandra, but it's going to be tighter than we thought going into this.
5-point difference between them. Andra did finish in 3rd place. Stefan Schlacker crosses the line for a 4th, which is not too shabby, starting from 8th and all the drama that he saw throughout this run. How about John Keefe as well? From 9th to a top 5 here.
Even after a spin, Joe.
Yeah. So with that, the rest of our cars are coming across for the checkered flag. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Detroit. The circuit on Belle Isle has put on another great show. It was frantic, but not necessarily for Fabian Gerber, who had a 31, nearly 32-second gap to his brother at the end, taking the win and bringing the points down to 5 between himself and our championship leader, Cy Andra. Tobias Gerber with a 2nd place, and Cy with damage late at the end, sending him to the bottom step of the podium. Stefan Schlacker climbing up to 4th with multiple issues throughout, but still managing at least a good finish out of it. John Keefe with a 5th, another driver that came back from a spin, even though he started in 9th and gained a lot of spots. Fabian Jungbluth was a 6th, and last car on the lead lap, incredibly, for the prototypes. Guilherme de Otero was 7th, first car lap down, and Hideki Koivisto, the last car 1 lap down in 8th of the prototypes. You've got Krejcik, who looks like he did not finish, Laust Olsen, Warkup, Pavlowski, and Molitor, all DNFs in the GTPs.
We get to the GTOs with Phil Lake taking the win, a commanding win after taking that first position over Yuko Leskola going into turn 3 on the first lap and never looked back. Rob Olenek benefiting from some mistakes from the drivers up ahead of him, able to claw his way up to the second position. He had the pace, though, to stay with Phil Lake, so impressive drive from him. Yuko Leskola, a little bit of a recovery from himself after his early first lap incidents, up to third position and was able to hold there. Reed Miller taking advantage of Jamie Hall's misfortune comes home in fourth, with Michael Houghton climbing from fifth place after a spin on the first lap. Fantastic drive from him to claw his way back. Matthias Potts comes home in sixth position, a solid drive from him, and Richard Spitzmaller up a decent amount of positions, taking advantage of the mistakes of those ahead of him and making some on-track passes to come home in the seventh spot. Carlos Fonseca comes home in eighth position. Then we have drivers that had a little bit of trouble. Ryan Lang and Jamie Hamill-Smith had some issues. Yuri Jessen came home in the 11th position with some issues of himself. Then we have our DNFs, Pablo Rangel, Daniel Sadro, Jamie Hall, Vern Klukas, Devin Donahue, and Ryan Sorrell round out the 12 cars that we had in the GTO field and the 30 cars in our field today.
Oof, a sigh of relief, I'm sure, for Fabian Gerber, who took the win in the prototypes, and he joins us here today. Fabian, it's been a bit since you snagged a win here on the broadcasted races. Are you actually breathing a little bit of a sigh? Because this also closes the gap between you and Andra quite a bit.
Oh, yes, I needed that one. It was a tough race, but I'm really glad I got this win because the last 4 races were just horrible. No points at all. So, and even a mistake last week, so that was devastating, and I lost a bit of confidence, but this race gives me everything back. It was great.
How much does that psychological factor play in for you when you're racing? Is it something that you really need that confidence boost, or can you block everything out?
It depends on track, I think. If I know a track and like the track, it's easier than when I just had to practice it just to be fast, just to learn the track, you know what I mean? And this week, it was more like being afraid making a mistake again, but practicing enough means I can block it out just during the race, but it's always difficult, especially at a track like this.
So 5 points between you, and the next round is heading to Sonoma, another track that's notorious for difficult passing opportunities. What are your thoughts going there?
Yes, I'm a bit scared actually. Sonoma might not be the greatest place to decide this championship. Qualifying is half the win, and then you need some good traffic, some luck with traffic as well maybe. So it's going to be really difficult, especially because I'm behind with points. But yeah, it's gone down to the last race. That's great for those who watch. So it's going to be exciting, I guess.
Yes, I anticipate it'll be quite a thriller there coming down to the last race. Again, congratulations on the victory, sir.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Up next, I believe we've got our winner and new champion in Phil Lake. Adam's caught up with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, congratulations on the championship win, especially with the points that you're collecting today. And unfortunately, Jamie Hall's bad luck today. You're going to take the win. What are your thoughts coming out of that race?
Yeah, I won the championship as of last week, so that wasn't an issue. So it was quite nice to race without the pressure today, and I really love this track. So it was really nice to get a win here.
Absolutely. And talk to me about your pass on Yuko Leskola going into turn 3 on the first lap. It looked like that was the move of the day for you today. How hard was it to get by him in that in those early portions of the lap?
He's been a little bit mistake prone on the first lap this season, and so I was just trying to put as much pressure on him as I could on the first lap to try and force a mistake, and I think he just broke a little bit too late for the turn. Was that like turn 6 or 7, the end of the back straight, and I just managed to sneak up his inside before he could recover. So that worked out really well for me.
Absolutely. Now, How was the traffic for you today? As the leader of the slower class, sometimes it can catch you, as the unfortunate one, but how was it for you today?
Pretty good. I think the gap between me and Rob, pace-wise, was very similar the whole race. And then there was just a couple of moments with traffic that made it change. But once it had changed, lose half a second or gain half a second, it would just stay about the same. So it was just about minimizing the time loss. And it really just comes down to where the Nissan catches you, and there's not a lot you can do about it. In certain places, you're just going to lose time.
So next week you have a victory lap at the Sonoma road course. Talk to me about your thoughts going into that session.
Yeah, that's another one I'm looking forward to. We don't go there very often, so I'm just looking forward to going back to that track again. And it's a layout we've never done before, so that should be interesting.
No, it was always one of my favorites when I raced with you guys. But good to talk to you, Phil, and congratulations on the win and the championship.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that was Phil in and around the lake, and it looks like we've caught up with Cy Andra, who finished third today.
Yes, it was unfortunately a little bit of a disappointing one for Cy Andra. I'm sure the gap has gone down, but you are still the points leader. Talk to us about that fight with Tobias Gerber, Cy, because it seemed it got a little rough at the end.
I have no hard feelings for Tobias. He was obviously racing for that brother 1-2, and I can respect that. I also had a little bit of a hardware issue at the end there. I lost sound. And in these cars, losing sound is like losing one eye, so to speak, because a lot of the stuff that you deal with in your right foot is coming from what you're hearing as well as what you're seeing. So unfortunately, I had to deal with that. And I think that caused me to miss a gear a few times here and there. And I think that's what got Tobias into the back of me. So no hard feelings.
Understandable. Of course, with one round to go and a 5-point gap, that's got to be a little bit unnerving. But I guess one consolation is it sounds like Fabian also feels kind of nervous about going to Sonoma, with that being such a tight and twisty place. Do you consider that one of your strong tracks?
It's a track I haven't been to in a long time, but it is a track I've experienced with in the Nissan back in, I believe, 2016 or 2017, I believe. In the first season of Kamel GT, I think I raced there with Keith Ritchie a few times, and I did well. So hopefully that will come in handy here, and I think we'll put on a good show. It's a tough track to pass at, but it's also a tough track in traffic as well. So we'll see what has to happen.
Should provide some opportunities. Well, we look forward to seeing how things come down to the wire next week. And again, congratulations on salvaging a podium.
Thank you.
That was Cy Andra. Last one we're going to talk to. Adam has an incredible drive from Michael Houghton, going from dead last to 5th.
Yeah, Michael, great to talk to you today. But I mean, from 3rd to 17th to 5th, talk me through your race today. How did you climb your way back out of that hole?
Oh man, this was definitely not what I expected coming into Detroit. Qualifying in 3rd, I was pretty happy with that, and keeping my hopes up to keep that position throughout the race and possibly moving up the ladder. But yeah, the unfortunate circumstances, Rob hit my rear end. I spun around and had to let everybody go. And then from then on, it was my mentality shifted to let's go. I can't wait for anybody, and it worked out.
Yeah, it looks like you made some very intense moves throughout the race to try and get through some of the slower traffic. And how was the faster traffic dealing with that today?
I felt it was better than usual. The Nissan guys did pretty good today, so yeah, I can't complain.
Well, you did a fantastic job today to get a P5. Is there anyone you want to thank today?
Just you guys. Thank you for continuing to do this, and for all the Dirty Torque boys practicing every week, and everybody that participates in the Kamel GT series to make it one of the best series on iRacing. Thank you guys. Yeehaw!
All right, that was Michael Houghton, the Texan, giving us another yeehaw today. Back to you, Joe.
And that's going to do it for our interviews today. A big thank you, of course, to Kamel GT Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also, we want to remind you that if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. Also, a thank you goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast, listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screens for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media, where our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com, and the link is in the description below. The next race, as we mentioned, that is going to be at Sonoma, Saturday, September 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. It's going to be the championship decider for the prototypes, because it is the season finale. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And coming up in just a little bit of time here, we have the Obscure Car Challenge. It's exactly what it sounds like. A lot of the lesser used cars racing against one another at the Nürburgring, of all places. That'll be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.